meeting to order for the Kettle Creek Conservation Authority. Kettle Creek Conservation Authority wishes to acknowledge the treaties of the traditional lands originally occupied by the Indigenous First Nations peoples of the Anishinaabe, Aninwandrock, Haudenosaunee nations, and KCCA strives to build meaningful relationships with Indigenous communities, recognizes the importance of respecting these treaties and lands. Remind everybody of beginner answers. Being none, minutes for the last meeting.
Seconder. We'll run the meeting, Todd, don't worry.
I wasn't sure if I read the recommendation.
The motion, Baldwin Sands.
Yes.
Burrs,
Yes.
Herbert,
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
McMillan.
Yes.
Cribble,
Yes.
Drybosh.
Yes.
Trousseau,
Yes.
Wilson. Is absent, Noble,
Yeah,
and that motion passes.
and approval of the minutes for the annual general meeting, mover and seconder. Jim, Grant.
Baldwin Sands.
Yes.
Burrs.
Yes.
Herbert,
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
McMillan.
Yes.
Cribble,
Yes.
Drybosh.
Yes.
Trousseau,
Yes.
and Noble,
Yes,
and that motion passes.
okay. Media report.
I will take that. Mainly, we've just had a number of postings on our employment positions that are available that have had good responses. And then a number of articles on the flood warnings that we've had during the spring freshet. And some local coverage on the consolidation, updated announcements after the ERR close. And the last article was on the update that Betsy gave to Elgin County Council on the Elgin Clean.
Any questions? Or
Just a comment on one of the postings. How are we doing for our summer employment? Because I've sent it out into my networks and I'm just hoping we have a better result.
Yeah, really, Mr. Chair, to Lori, really great response this year. We had a number of candidates, probably the best we've seen in the last 5 years, and a really good response for lifetime as well, which was nice to see because that's been difficult. Those positions have been difficult to fill. But the staff have already done the interviews and started making offers.
Very good. Thank you.
any other questions? Seeing none, moving on to project tracking.
And so starting the busy time of year, certainly for staff as we gear up for the campgrounds and the tree planting season. They're out acquiring sponsorships for various programs, including VS at both campgrounds. Jen will report later on her favorable funding approval with WECI. And Green Lane has come back another year to support the Elgin Clean Water Program with another donation of $40,000. So that's always well welcomed to continue that program. Staff have been completing some stewardship projects for landowners in the city of London relative to buckthorn removal. We've completed first aid training on staff and coordinating equipment and, as I mentioned, seasonal staff interviews for the upcoming season. The campground reservation system did open March 1st, and you can see there that there was 300 reservations made in the first 12 hours, which is up from last year, and 444 in the first week. And I'm told that I believe the cabins are completely booked for July and August. So that wasn't a blip. They're actually welcomed amongst the public. So that was good to see as well.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? With the cabins, is that something we should look at in the future of having more?
I think that's on the staff planning horizon is to look at if we can accommodate more.
All right. And watershed conditions, Jennifer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Great Lakes, so Lake Erie is still continuing to be quite lower than normal, about a meter lower than normal. That's below the 2020 record high. February, I mean, rainfall in February is pretty iffy, but there was about 36% of the average total that you normally get for February, which works out to be about 24 millimeters of rain. That doesn't include snowfall, that's a different metric. The Environment Canada outlook for March to May indicated above normal temperatures and precipitation for the region. I believe a number of CAs are still maintaining a level 1 water condition. I'm sorry, I can't read
Yeah, I was gonna say, you can read that?
So there's still, I think it's 6 or 7 that are still in level 1 low water condition. We expect to move out of that condition shortly. We did have spring freshet starting at about mid-February. We had several Colorado or Montana lows come in through the system, tracking behind each other, which did cause some potential high water events. We actually made it pretty easily this year. The water levels never got as high as, or the rain never came as much as they expected, as much as they forecasted. So the water levels, they did rise, but it wasn't, it didn't cause any major flooding. In fact, it didn't cause any minor flooding, which was pretty amazing. So staff were also excited to submit an expression of interest for the WECI funding program. This is for reallocation funding, so funding that was available at the end of the fiscal year that was available for small projects or projects that were already underway or completed. So we were able to submit a project for a total project cost of $19,520, and with WECI funding, we were able to get 50% of that covered, which is almost $10,000. And that was to cover costs for doing seasonal inspections, minor repairs, replacing some safety signs, and as well as getting updated Class C construction estimates and repair drawings for the Dalewood Dam.
Thank you. Any questions, Laura?
Congratulations first on getting the grant. Much needed to do that ongoing assessment, building the case continually for the Dalewood Dam. Yesterday, I did an informal, after reading it on the weekend, informal drive through the watershed to see how low the water levels were all the way down to the port. And it was really incredibly low, and how much more there is on the sides of the creek itself. And I'm just absolutely amazed at this time of year when usually you see them overflowing and wider, and just to see how low the water level has become. So thank you for that in the report.
Is that the anticipation it'll be low all year?
To Mr. Chair, it could happen that way. Once we, unfortunately, with the way the nature of our watershed, it is a very flashy watershed, and water tends to flow quickly out into the lake. It doesn't necessarily stay in the system. With the frozen ground right now, water is just flowing into the creek and then out. So as soon as the ground thaws, hopefully a lot more of that water will get retained in the system, and water levels should continue to go up. But it is a potential that we could see another season of low water.
Any other questions? All right. Mover and seconder to receive the 3 reports. Jim, Frank?
Alderman Sands.
Yes.
Burrs.
Yes.
Herbert.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
McMillan.
Yes.
Ribble.
Yes.
Drybosh.
Yes.
Rousseau.
Yes.
Noble.
Yes.
And that motion carries.
Okay. Correspondence?
There were 2 pieces of correspondence out in the advanced package. You can see the letter from Minister McCarthy in regards to the next phases of improving Ontario's conservation system. I think it was meant to again, reiterate that they believe that this is a positive move forward and that there won't be substantive changes to our programs and services, and they see it as strengthening, not weakening the Conservation Authority. There was also a subsequent letter from McCarthy in regards to reinstating the freeze on planning and regulation fees for the CAs. This freeze was effective March 10th and is consistent with the freeze that they've had for the last couple of years. It doesn't affect KCCAs. We didn't increase our fees or didn't intend to for the 2026 year. The last piece of correspondence came in late after the packages were out, and that's an invitation to Middlesex Municipal Day. And that's coming up on May 7th. If anyone is interested, let me know and I can share that information with members.
I will be attending that.
Something's gonna go and go. I always ask, what's for lunch? They never tell you.
Yeah.
To the chair, well, I have a comment and a question. I would debate with him if we were listening closely. He didn't listen to anybody. I mean, that was it. That was a joke for him to say that, listen closely. Out of 39 conservation jobs, probably 35 of them said, we don't want this. Obviously, they didn't listen, but they had a game plan to go. So maybe this is the wrong area to ask this question, but when will you know what is happening? We're into 4 divisions now to the boards. Is there any decision on board status? And would it be, and a question in my mind was, if you had 4 divisions, 3 from each division, would be 9 people on the board? I don't know if any of that is in your thoughts. Just curious.
Mr. Chair, maybe I can get into that in the next presentation. So I was going to walk you through what we do know now about the consolidations, and
I know I read that.
those questions then.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions? Mover and seconder that the correspondence be received. Grant, Sharon?
Sure. Waldron Sands.
Yes.
Burrs.
Yes.
Herbert.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
McMillan. Dibble.
Yes.
Drybosh.
Yes.
Rousseau.
Yes.
And Oakland, yes. That motion passes.
New business, regional consolidation.
Yeah, so just further to Jim's questions there.
That was rather harsh, Jim. Harsh.
Harsh.
There we go.
I was.
So I wanted to take you through the decision that the province released on the ERO that we've all been commenting on. Obviously, we have a few more details, but still a substantial number of questions are not answered. We do expect within, I would think, the next couple of days as the legislature rises again, or sits again, that we will see amendments to CA Act and further information from the province in the next couple of weeks. But what we know today is the province did announce on March 10th their revised framework. They said that it was based on the consultation that they received, over 14,000 ERO responses that were received. And that's not to say the individual letters that were sent to MPs and other pieces of correspondence that were not included on the website. They did move from 7 regional CAs down to 9, with the major change coming with Northwestern Ontario Regional CA is now Lakehead on its own. Lakehead was previously grouped with the Lake Huron region, which something so far north with major CAs in the south didn't make sense. So they successfully lobbied to be on their own. And then the other major split obviously affected us, which was the large Erie region being split into 2. So there wasn't a lot of movement on the map. You can see that on the left was the map that they released back in December. And the small changes that happened was the Erie region being split into 2. Other slight changes that did occur that didn't affect the number of regions was Previously, the Toronto region had been left on its own, and in the revised version, Central Lake Ontario and Toronto are now to be amalgamated into one CA. And Cataraqui got added to the Eastern Lake Ontario region, rather than being grouped with the St. Lawrence River Conservation Authority. So, a somewhat favorable change for us. Instead of being looped into one big region, you can now see the two separate regions for Western and Eastern Lake. The nice thing about the region that we've been grouped with is it is completely mirrors the source protection region that we've been working with since mid-2000s, 2006. So there is a working relationship amongst those four CAs for sure. The timeline that the province continues to purport out there remains very tight. So you can see in March, they came out with a decision. They expect Conservation Act amendments, I would say, within the next week. We expect some type of news there. With everything happening, the OPC is expected to gear up as well. And the 9 regional CAs are expected to be formed and operational by February 1st, 2027. So a very aggressive timeline in terms of to get the things done. What we do know that came out in the technical briefing that we received on March 10th is that the province plans that these consolidations will be what they call statutory amalgamations. So it will come out in law that these CAs are grouping. I'm assuming that is to cut down on the amount of paperwork that will be needed to be done on land holdings and things like that. All the assets and liabilities that what they call the predecessor CAs will become the new regional CAs property. But the province has stressed that staffing, current programs and services, and local input will be preserved in the new model. Nothing much changed in terms of really the governance structure. The OPCA is still going to be formed, and that's that provincial agency that is now going to oversee CAs. The province is really toting that as a major way that will ensure that these transitions are done smoothly. In addition to the 20 million that the OPCA was awarded to form themselves, will be $3 million a year awarded to the OPCA. Initially, that money is envisioned to make the transition smooth. That money will be doled out to the different regions to help with the transition. And then moving forward, that $3 million will be available for the OPCA and for CAs for things like a consistent permitting system and things like that. So the top end structure remains the same. So there will be that OPCA board that will be appointed members. And there will be an OPCA staff. We have had no announcements further on either of the OPCA staff or the OPCA board. But now there will be 9 regional boards. And the major change there is instead of your lower tier municipalities being appointed to those regional boards, the province has announced that those appointments will come from single tier and upper tier municipalities. And then the other announcement that they did make, and they've told it this is their way of listening to the concerns that local input remains strong, is that they had said that watershed councils will be allowed to form at least one per regional conservation authority, but they've given no details so far on who will sit on those councils, how they'll be formed, or what responsibilities that they will have. So when you look at the impacts that I can see right now for our region, but this chart is just describing the existing participating municipalities for each of the 4 CAs within our proposed region. And you can see, for instance, Kettle has 7 participating municipalities consisting of 10 members. And again, your membership is based on the population within the watershed. Catfish, 5 municipalities, 5 members, Long Point, 7 municipalities, 11 members. And Grand River, currently about 22 municipalities, but I think it's almost 36 when you consider the lower tiers that are represented by the counties that already have positions on the GRCA's board. The GRCA's current board is about 26 members. 10 of them come from the region of Waterloo. So under this new scenario, there will be one board representing all of those communities. And what the province is saying is those new representatives will come from the single tier and upper tier municipalities within those regions. So when you count those up, I'm estimating it'll be about 17 members. That would be the minimum. The province has also said that each municipality will have one representative on the board, but by municipalities, they mean the upper tier and single tier participating municipalities. So when you think about that, those will be the participating municipalities. So the apportionment for the new regional CAs will come from those participating municipalities, which will be not so much of a big change for Grand River, who's probably already worked like that, and even Long Point, I think, in certain circumstances has worked like that, with Oxford County paying the apportionment for Southwest Oxford, Tillsonburg, and their lower tiers. But it would be a big change for us in terms of Allegan County, Middlesex County, now paying those apportionment for the lower tiers. The province has also said that they might set maximum board sizes and may set a maximum number of members from participating municipalities. So they still, I think, believe that the representation will be based on population, possibly. But when you have a region of Waterloo that already has 10 members on the Grand River board, you're going to have to look at somehow curbing those on our regional CA board, especially if you want a board that's manageable in terms of numbers. And I would say, when you're getting 17, 20 members, you're getting up there in terms of a manageable board. Interestingly enough, the technical briefing also said that they're removing the provision that 70% of board appointments must be elected, which seems like they're opening the door up. So for municipal appointees, public appointees to the boards. The chair and vice chair won't have to rotate between municipalities anymore. And the non-elected appointees to the CA might need to meet certain knowledge and experience. Chairs and vice chairs, however, may be appointed for 2 years up to a maximum of 8 years, whereas right now it's 2 years, 2-year maximum. And again, as I mentioned before, they believe the local representation will be protected by these watershed councils. Again, one or more can be created for each RCA, but we have no idea right now the number that can serve on that council, the composition, the functions or duties of it. How do we get from here to February 1st? They're introducing transition committees. So each of the 4 CAs within our region will be able to name the CAO-GM and one other elected official to a transition committee that will start. Their mandate will be to come up with a transition plan for how this occurs before February 1st. The province will be appointing a project executive to oversee and chair that committee, and that individual will serve as the new CAO of the amalgamated consolidated CA for the next 2 years. So for the next 2 years, our guidance really will be coming from the province through that appointed individual. Throughout the transition, the minister has also stipulated that there will be certain restrictions, and I think we anticipated this, some guardrails on how we spend our money and some decisions that we can make on staffing. Those are yet to come out. The biggest thing they gave us a heads up on was they may be providing direction on our budget. So you can imagine the way I think it's going to be right now is obviously budgets need to be set. The province is looking at us having our budget sets for 2027 before December 31st, 2026. And I believe those budgets, the apportionments will still be to our existing participating municipalities. And the 2028 budget would be apportioned to the new participating municipalities, which creates its own level of complexity. These are early days. We don't have the nitty-gritty details, but my mind is already going to we lose this board and your individuals as of October. The province is saying budgets need to be set by December 31st. There's this hinterland between October and even February 1st of governance and control. So that will be a prime topic, I believe, in terms of transition planning. But my goal would be to try to have this board approve a budget so that your participating municipalities can have a say in it, if you're the ones paying for it, is to have it well in hand before our October meeting. You know, looking at having our budget completed by August or September of this year, so you have more control over them. So what we know right now, to Jim's questions, no, in terms of coming up with what that board will look like, I think that'll be a major discussion for that transition committee. Obviously, a lot of things have to play into that. Again, you know, just having each municipality within those 4 areas, one representative is 17. Is that enough to make you feel like you have a good representation on the board? I would suggest probably not. That means for our region, it would be a representative from Elgin, St. Thomas, and London. So you'd have at minimum 3 representatives on a 17-member board from this area. And that would be including like Catfish's area too, right? Because now we don't get 2 representatives for Elgin County, we're just gonna have that one. So I know that Middlesex County has already started to look at how this changes there, and I just included a brief snippet from a board council report that went to Middlesex County, and they've already started looking at the apportionment from participating municipalities for their county and the impact that that will have to their budget. And they're saying for context, the new CA levy to that county's budget would be more than double the largest service area levy increase for 2026. So it'll be a major impact to that budget area, and a question about the counties, how they want to, I guess, recoup that with their participating municipalities.
Excuse me, Chair. From the meeting and from talking to Paul Shipway yesterday, he anticipates that this new restructuring will probably do about 2.2 points on the levy to Middlesex County residents. And the other little wrinkle is that a lot of us, particularly now that we're, you know, in sort of in election mode, is I'm not really sure how we can get all kinds of budget stuff done and to meet those, because a lot of times we're just starting like in Town Center, we would only just be starting our budget examination, and then the county usually follows us. So I think that there's going to be some tricky times with that. Oh, yes.
Whatever. The beat goes on. I mean, what can we do about it?
I guess my experience with the health unit, 2 years ago, we had a board of 10 and now we have a board of 14 because of 4 extra public appointees. And it is getting to the point where 14 is, we don't want any more. It's getting manageable at that point.
Yeah.
10 was working quite well and 14 is not working as well because the different opinions around the table. I think Jim, you can attest to that.
And I agree, there will be real challenges with that. But as I've said to Elizabeth too, one of my other concerns, like above us, is the provincial appointees. Whether they will be political. I'm not sure whether that's necessarily a good thing. One of the other things that concerns me too, is it gonna be a lottery for this $3 million? Like, how are they going to? Challenging questions that I don't think were necessarily being answered.
That's all the information I have right now. Like I said, I expect more
It's a
will
lot
come
of
out
information.
and
Thank you.
It is.
then we'll keep you abreast as we move through it.
It's kind of disappointing knowing how well this CA is managed.
No,
And then to step out into something that's so unknown and not have any guidance, but also, I feel like there'll be less control over costs, less control over programs that are run locally, and then you end up with less public engagement.
And decisions on our assets too.
Jim?
that's really good. On the other side of the fence here, anytime you have something new, 6 months, a year later, there's a big review. Maybe it'll be positive or maybe negative, but they'll review in a year, I'm sure, how this is all working out.
Mhm.
So I guess it's like anything, you have to try it. I mean, we're forced to try it. It's not that we want to try it.
Yeah.
Forced to try it.
It happens at an election year too, though, so you don't know what the next makeup is going to be of councils.
Yeah.
So you lose that continuity. So the new councils coming in potentially don't have any idea of what was before this, so.
And
Yeah,
it's as soon as you have a provincial appointee, they get paid. So there'll be more money for budget for that. Like for Lori and I, we get nothing. We're just appointed by the city, part of our little thing. If we didn't want to be here, we just say we don't want to come to the committee. We don't get anything extra from them. So, but provincial, if you're going to add 3 or 4 provincial appointees, the province pays out in the budget, or would that come in your budget? How,
Mr. Chair to Jim, there's been no guidance on that.
okay, that's fine.
I think the response
obvious, it's gonna
back,
be more
at
money.
least our response back was that all transition costs should be covered by the province. But there's been no response on that yet.
So what's the underbelly of this? Why was this change made? To control how developers get decisions out of the conservation authorities? Is that what it is? I gotta think that's what it is. Because they're still contributing 1%, nothing more.
but not really, because we were meeting the guidelines, exceeding the guidelines.
Yeah,
So there was no holdup, and
So-
that was pretty consistent throughout the province.
so they're not saving money because they're not contributing anything other than they did this transition thing, but. Yeah, well, it's a done deal, and you saw the feedback. It was overwhelmingly against it, but you're not gonna change it.
We need a motion to receive.
Mr. Chair, just.
Can I say something, please?
That's what
What we're saying in
online,
June.
have something.
Somebody wants to say
Like
something.
Dan wants to be.
Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, well, the further this goes, the clearer I am that this was just a very, very reckless and ill thought out political move to essentially gut the effectiveness of many local agencies that were operating very effectively. I'm not sure there's much we could do about this in the long run. I mean, in the short run. But one question I do have is, we still control our expenditures. What is the cutoff date by which we would have to encumber funds that we are allowed to do under our self-governance, which is going to be lost? In other words, if there are things that we're thinking of doing or putting into the ground, what would be the cutoff date for board approval?
Mr. Chair, to Sam, so all we know right now is there's been, in the technical briefing, the minister indicated that there's the potential that there will be guardrails in place through that transition period, including controlling things like possibly major expenditures, land dispositions, those types of things. But in terms of a deadline, that hasn't been suggested or outlined. I would expect that that would come with the CA Act amendments or further guidance once the OPCA becomes completely up and operational. In terms of this board, these board members, your board right now serves until the next meeting of the newly appointed board, at least as the CA Act is in place now. But for my comfort level, I would want all decisions that this board wants to be made until I'm told otherwise by the province. I would say September meeting would be the effectiveness of this board. The last meeting of this board before the municipal election.
Thank you for that. I'm very worried about the disposition of land. When I hear talk of what might be happening to school properties, I think to myself, what would the analogy be with lands that we hold? I'm very concerned that this government is going to start selling off our assets to the private sector. I'm very concerned that some of the long-term protections that some of our land holdings enjoy by virtue of public ownership could potentially be threatened. And I think it would be incumbent on us, responsible of us, to think about, are there other devices? And maybe this would be better for closed session. I don't know. Perhaps our next meeting, we should have a closed session. But I think we have to be careful to sort of say what it is we're interested in talking about. Are we holding any assets that would benefit from being put in some type of co-ownership with nonprofits or a trust? That's one question. The next question is, are there expenditures that we've been thinking of making that we've been just waiting to see how events unfold? And perhaps it would be prudent for us to accelerate some of these expenditures while we still have the power to do it. We have many needs in the ground, and I want to make sure that we don't look back and say, while we were still an autonomous board, we could have or should have done this. I'm very concerned. I don't think that this is being undertaken in good faith by this government, and I am very concerned about privatization. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
Yeah, good question.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I guess to respond to Sam, those are thoughts that I've had and are pursuing some of them with legal and can provide direction once received.
All right. No more questions? Oh, Sam, you got your hand up again?
Would it be useful for us to look at our summer meetings and make sure that we're having full meetings rather than I don't have the calendar in front of me, but are we skipping meetings in July or August this year?
Mr. Chair, to Sam, yeah, we don't have one scheduled in July and there's a tentative one in August. But I can certainly pull members and look at that rescheduling one for July.
Yeah, I would appreciate that. I think given the exigency of some of the things that are going to likely happen to us, we might want to consider holding those meetings. And yeah, thank you.
Okay. Oh, Laura.
Thank you to Sam for some good points. Where I landed with this, and I was going to talk about it a little bit later, was a duplicate of what some of the things that Sam had said, but also on communication. If you notice the map, how Elgin County is divided down into two. So I'm worried about communication, how it's communicated through the political process. I am concerned about how the information is going to be disseminated after that point. And I'm also concerned with our northern partners as well, to say that there's somewhat of a disconnect there. My greatest concern, however, is with the staff, is making sure that the comfort level of the staff that we have and continue to have, because they are excellent in making sure that we are moving forward to protecting them as much as possible. So.
Thanks, Lori. Do we have a motion for that or not?
The report was for information. We can take a motion to receive it if you'd like.
Do you require it? Grant? Yeah.
Baldwin Sands.
Yes.
Spurs.
Yes.
Herbert.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
McMillan.
Yes.
Cribble.
Yes.
Drybosh.
Yes.
Rousseau.
Yes.
Noble.
Yes.
And that motion passes.
Next item is hydro meters that deal with conservation of the campground.
Mr. Chair, Rob and Jessica have been working on this report to the board. I'm going to give an overview. And then they can jump in, or Rob, you want to take it?
I can do it there.
Okay.
It's been a while since I've done this, so thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to update the members in regards to what's going on with the hydro meters. The system was put in 2017, and every 10 years, meters have to be recalibrated according to Measurement Canada's processes. So unfortunately, over the past 10 years, the technology has increased as well and changes, and our current system is actually not up to date with a lot of the stuff. So we have to update the whole system as well. We did have in 2016, we did a lot of background studies and found that our hydro was increasing exponentially at Dalewood. So doing our research, we found that these meters were probably top of the line at the time, and once they were installed, the hydro use in Dalewood actually dropped considerably. It was a significant drop in the campers usage when they were paying for their own hydro. Unfortunately, with the changes that are coming, we do have to do the substantial increase in updating everything that's there. So our recommendation is to basically, with the estimated cost of upgrading the system, recalibration, and the software licensing, it's roughly $23,000 to do that. And unfortunately, those costs can't be passed back to the campers. So that would be something that we would take on ourselves. The system, we can still use the meters for monitoring purposes, but we would not be able to bill without having them recertified by Measurement Canada. So staff are recommending that we, beginning in 2027, hydro meters at Dalewood Conservation Area be used for monitoring purposes only, and the staff take appropriate actions to adjust 27 camping fees at Dalewood Conservation Area.
Okay, any questions for Rob, Lori?
Thank you very much for the report. The only thing, I know we can't transfer the additional fees to the campers, but can we put in a service fee? Not necessarily a camping fee, but a service fee, so that we plan for the next 10 years when these have to be replaced in a 10-year period.
Mr. Chair, to Lori, I think the recommendation of staff is that the meters aren't replaced and we stop billing them for their hydro. And so the meters that we have there existing, they're okay to monitor how much hydro is being used, and we can use that information in terms of setting our global fees. But the staff, I think, believe that the $23,000 reinvestment in only 10-year-old meters, the recouping of the cost isn't there, because in 10 years we're going to have to spend at least another $23,000. They haven't lived out that lifespan.
And I did get that from the report, but my saying is that 10 years from now, when this comes up again, or 2 years or 5 years, et cetera, can we start doing a service charge that is targeted towards the replacement of those in the long term? I mean, from today going forward. We can't do it because we've already passed our budgets, but it's something that we could consider to add an additional service fee to the camper package itself for the sole purpose of doing the upgrades, whether it be 5 or 10 years from now.
Mr. Chair, I'd have to look into the legality of that, because it is a stipulation set by Service Canada that you can't charge for the capital that you are going to use to charge people for the hydro. So I'd have to look to see the legalities behind that suggestion.
So I think part of it is they're going to keep, Lori, I think they're going to keep the meters there and monitor that usage for 2027. And then in 2027, if the usage goes up substantially, then I'm down to develop with another idea. Is that the plan?
Yes, something along that line, Mr.
Okay.
Chair.
Yes.
Are we the only authority that uses meters, or is it common Ontario?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Terrible doing this for a second. Essex Region actually also has meters. I've reached out to them. They put them in a year before us. Essex has had some similar issues. They have the same meters. And I'm not sure if they're continuing with the meters themselves either. They found there is a lot of discrepancies with the system that went in.
So just a couple of thoughts. I agree with your report. I say test it for a year and see how bad it is. It might surprise you. I don't think we need to paint all the campers with the same brush that people who are abusing the system. But I think that would be wise to do. And secondly, maybe this is something with new boards coming in, maybe there'll be a general consensus with all the different boards that yes, we need to monitor this, and maybe some funding could come from the province for this if they think it's necessary. But anyway, thank you. I agree with what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah, just through you to the board, with most private campgrounds, that's the norm. Every site has, especially with seasonals, which is the lion's share of most private campgrounds now is seasonal. It's getting hard to find transient sites, but everybody's monitored. And so I'm guessing they're gonna have the same problem with theirs, that have to replace all of theirs as well. You see some of these campgrounds you roll into, there's 200 sites that are seasonal. It's gonna get a little pricey. Wow.
JJ.
And just just comment on this issue. And we were in a private campground that before they started metering, people would leave their air conditioning running for the week when they were away. They would have a fridge that's dying and it's basically running constantly, and they just didn't worry about it. And so we should, I'm sure you are prepared for the possibility that suddenly things go badly.
I think, Mr. Chair, to JJ's point, the messaging to the seasonals will be, even though we're not charging each individual camper or their usage, we'll be using those stats to set our rates for 2027. So if the hydro usage gets out of hand again, we'll have concrete data at that point to be setting the rate for the next season. So it behooves them still to monitor and curb their hydro usage.
Just said, thank you.
To respond to that, and on Jim's point of painting everybody with the same brush.
Sure.
Yeah, everybody gets a rate increase.
Yeah.
For a few people who, which is
Abuse it.
That's standard. Standard everywhere. Keep it simple. Keep it as simple as we can and try to recover our costs through rate increases.
Cost recovery somewhere.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Rob. So the recommendation is that beginning in 2027, the hydro meters at Dale Conservation Area be used for monitoring purposes only, and that staff take the appropriate action to adjust 2027 annual camping fees at Dealwood Conservation Authority. Move from second. JJ. Jim?
Alderman Sands.
Yes.
Burrs.
Yes.
Herbert.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
McMillan.
Yes.
Cribble.
Yes.
Strybosh.
Yes.
Trousseau.
Yes.
Noble.
Yes.
And that motion carries.
Okay. 2027-28, what's the application? Jennifer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, the most recent seasonal inspection of the Dalewood Dam was conducted in October. And it indicated as normal that overall the dam spillway and ring walls continue to deteriorate. GD Valley continues to recommend that the repairs and refacing of the dam wing walls should be completed within 1 to 3 years, and repairs to the dam spillway be completed within a year. Under the direction of the board, last December, we contracted GD Valley to prepare Class C construction cost estimates for major rehabilitation based on those updated engineering drawings for the required repairs to the Dalewood Dam. Based on the 2026 rates, the total cost for major rehabilitation is now estimated at 1.7 million, which includes project tendering, project management, and $150,000 in contingency. The M&R administers the WECI program, which provides cost share provincial funding for conservation authorities for studies, maintenance, repairs, safety repairs, and renewal of dams and other flood control structures. The same program that we were able to get funding, reallocation funding this year for projects that we'd already completed. The next round for WECI funding for the next fiscal year, 2026-2027, was released on March 4th, and a very quick turnaround time for applications. They have to be submitted by March 31st of this year. A successful WECI application funds 50% of the proposed project costs. Project must be completed for this round from between April 1st, 2026 and March 15th, 2027. As part of that WECI application process, projects require municipal support or board authority budget approval, demonstrating financial commitments. It should also be noted that those WECI applications are reviewed by a committee and scored. So WECI funding is not guaranteed. It's also given to priority projects, especially safety projects. So the scoring definitely is a big factor on how WECI funding is distributed amongst the CAs. It should also be noted that KCCA's current capital reserves could not support 50% of the estimated project costs. If KCCA's WECI application were successful, 50% funding matched or $850,000 would need to be a mix of reserves, funding, loan, and or special levy apportionment for that 2027 budget year. And staff continue to look for alternatives in funding options.
Frank?
So where are we in this process then? So it's now at $1.7 million to do this. We've authorized the engineering study, correct? Or we paid for it? All right, so the next step is. Now, do we ever do a workup? So municipalities do a workup on what our lending ceiling is. What can we borrow? Do we have that? Do you know what we can?
Mr. Chair, Frank, we have a standing 200,000 line of credit that we can dip into. I've never looked at a lending ceiling. I can look into that. The way that we had worked it out in terms of the capital budget was that we anticipated doing the drawings this year and then going out and doing the project in 2028. But Jen was successful in the year-end funding with WECI, so we got those drawings done early and half paid for by WECI this year. So this is putting the project up basically a year from what we had looked at in terms of capital planning. You have about $500,000 in the capital infrastructure reserve right now. So this would basically pretty much bring that ahead of time and require some rejigging in terms of where funds are coming from. But I thought it was worth bringing to the board at this time just to submit the application, because we've never really known how the major rehabilitation is going to rank out amongst other projects in the province. But I do think it's worth submitting the application to seeing where we rank out to give ourselves a better indication in terms of going back to our member municipalities for the matching, that we've got matching secured.
Gotcha. I don't think we should deplete all our reserves, but of course, we're also faced with we're gonna be redundant in a month or two. We know, my opinion is the further this is delayed, the further it's gonna erode, the cost will go up. And you might even get a blowout on the side or something, which contributes. So I don't know, I guess the board will have to decide then, what do we want to do with the time we have left to try to keep this going? And will this new organization come down on us and say, no, can't do that? We're redirecting money somewhere else. So I think it would be prudent for us to meet, what is it, the next meeting or another meeting to talk about how are we gonna go at this with the time we have left? Because August is gonna come quick, right? August would be the last board meeting, will it not? Or are we on until October, you said?
Yeah, until October.
Okay. That's my 2 cents. And the longer things go on, costs just keep going up. And it has to be done. You have to bite the bullet, but I would not go for depleting all our reserves. So you'd have to borrow. Okay.
Mr. Chair, to Frank, one other point that I would like to make is that the ideal window for tendering a project of this nature is November to February. And work should be completed from July to October.
Okay, so that's, you're talking about 27 then? This could be, later this year then, November through, what did you say, February or March?
This was the recommendation of the engineering. Is that the ideal tendering for a project of this nature would be November to February.
Okay.
Because that would have an impact on cost and having what firms are available to do the work.
So do you think they could start this in 2027? There'd be enough people available to do it? Who knows, right? So it could go well into 2028 before you get a contractor. If you run this to February, March, I'll bet you a lot of them are booked up already into the summer season. I don't know. Okay, yeah, something to be aware of. How long does the 1.7 million hold for? Is it good for a year, that estimate, or do we know, or?
It's Class C construction costs, and we've been told that it's based on the best estimates currently from projects that have been completed by that engineering firm in recent times. But prices can fluctuate.
Okay, thank you.
I'll go to Grant and then Sam.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think we need to at least apply. I think that's prudent that we do apply and then figure out, no guarantee we're gonna get money anyway, so. I think there are options to look at. If we do get the grant, that we can figure it out.
I would agree. Sam?
Yes, if we don't get the grant, when would we know that?
Mr. Chair, to Sam, usually in the past, once the call for proposals has closed, the WECI committee meets immediately, and it usually meets for about 1 to 2 weeks, and they discuss all of the projects. So we should, but unfortunately, there's no consistent announcement for projects. Sometimes we know pretty quickly after the committee has met, and sometimes we don't know until later on. So for example, last year, the committee met pretty late, and then we didn't hear anything until June. So it's unknown.
Okay.
But in any event, we would know this while we're still able to make expenditures on our own, right?
Mr. Chair, correct. That would be the assumption. I also think this is a good year. I want to say a good year, but I anticipate that some other CAs might not be putting projects in for the same reason you're discussing around the table. So it might be a year where a smaller project gets filtered up to the top.
Now, am I correct in thinking that any money that is in any of our reserve accounts on the day that we sort of lose our independent status becomes the property of the province and the new entity?
Correct. The assumption right now is that any of the assets of the predecessor CAs on the date the province sets would become the assets of the consolidated CA.
However, am I also correct in assuming that to the extent that there has been a board authorized encumbrance of funds in a reserve account, that that encumbrance would be honored, and any contracts that are entered into using reserve account funds for funding would not be cut off, that they would be honored? Is that right?
Mr. Chair, I think that's a fair assumption, and I think that all the CAs have certain reserves or projects that they're going to want to protect, and that would be, I think, a main topic of discussion for the transition committee to come to some type of resolution that sits well with all the CAs.
Separate and apart from activities that are taken by the transition committee, I think that so long as we have our independent status, we as a board have some authority and control over whether or not to make certain encumbrances during the transition period.
I would say that is true, with the caveat that we'll have to see what the regulation states in terms of the leeway you have in terms of making those encumbrances.
Yeah, I'm becoming increasingly uncomfortable talking about this. And I'm thinking maybe for our next meeting, if a properly crafted notice of a closed session could be held, we would all be bound to a certain level of confidentiality about this, and I would feel more comfortable continuing this discussion in a closed session. I'm not going to ask for one today, but this is something I want to anticipate for the next meeting.
Okay, thank you, Sam. Jim?
Thanks for the chair. I've been on Kettle Creek for a long time. I don't know how many years we talk about Dalewood. I don't know how many years we've had engineering reports. Here's an opportunity to move forward with it, and I support the recommendation totally. If we get it, fine, and if it doesn't work out, fine. We got nothing to lose, but let's get working on this dam before it goes up another $200,000 in another year. I support the recommendation, so thank you.
I think it's a good idea to apply for the funding, and the other side of it is, as far as construction's pretty slow right now, and you might be surprised, instead of waiting to November to put that out, if we did get the WECI funding, I think we might be surprised with construction being slow, who bids on it, and it might come in under budget. Seen that before, so.
Wishful thinking, God.
Well, we've actually done that, Frank.
Yeah.
Saved a lot of money, so $600,000 on one project, so I stand by that comment. And any JJ?
I'm just curious, through the chair, if we were to receive the grant and go ahead, the timelines to complete the requirements of the grant are very tight.
1 year.
If we haven't actually completed, maybe we're close, but haven't completed by that deadline, what happens in terms of the grant?
Mr. Chair to JJ, there is some flexibility, but I am concerned that with the changes in how things are going this year, that they may have a very hard deadline. And it also is dependent on like how much more of the project needs to be completed. If it's just a small little bit, then sometimes they give a little bit of flexibility, but there's no guarantee that that would be possible. They want projects completed within the fiscal year.
Yes, yeah, okay.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Recorded.
Okay. I think they're all recorded when we're doing online.
Well, whatever, I'm asking.
You moving it, Lori? Second, Grant?
Alden Sands.
Yes.
Burrs.
Yes.
Herbert.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
McMillan.
Yes.
Cribble.
Yes.
Drybosh.
Yes.
Trousseau.
Yes.
Noble.
Yes.
And that motion passes.
Okay. Next item is charge planning and regulation report.
Nothing to report, Mr. Chair. It was put out in the advance package unless there were specific questions. We're just asking for it to be received.
Okay. Any questions? No. Mover and seconder? Grant, Frank?
Alden Sands.
Yes.
Burrs.
Yes.
Herbert.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
McMillan.
Yes.
Cribble.
Yes.
Drybosh.
Yes.
Trousseau.
Yes.
Noble.
Yes.
And that motion passes.
Motion to move into close. Do we have a item we're
I
at?
have one legal matter to add to the closed session.
And mover and seconder to move into close. Sharon? JJ?
Alden Sands.
Yes.
Burrs.
Yes.
Herbert.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
McMillan.
Yes.
Cribble.
Yes.
Trousseau.
Yes.
Noble.
Yes.
Going to close at 11:09.